Jackson Systems is your controls expert in the HVAC industry. With our top-notch technical support and customer service, we make life easier for you, the HVAC contractor. We offer free trainings on any products sold here at Jackson Systems, along with our filter fetch program, free thermostat and printing, home and business automation with connected sensors, cameras, and even smart stats from Nest, Ecobee, Honeywell, White Rogers, Google, and more. Visit us at jacksonsystems.com to see the products that continue to win industry acclaim among contractors worldwide. Jackson Systems, controls done right.
Guys that have listened to us at HVAC Shop Talk for a while have heard us talk about getting a free Zoom Lock toolkit with the purchase of a certain amount of Zoom Lock flame-free refrigerant fittings. Well, that's true. If you purchase 350 of the flame-free Zoom Lock fittings, you can get a free tool with that. But what you might not know is if you go to the Zoom Lock Roadshow and make that purchase, you can get it for 300 Zoom Lock flame-free refrigerant fittings. That's quite a deal, guys. Go to ZoomLockRoadshow.com and find out where that truck's at so you can flag it down and get your Zoom Lock tool today. You're listening to HVAC Shop Talk, a proud member of the Blue Collar Roots Network. For more information about HVAC Shop Talk or one of the many other podcasts on the network, visit bluecollarroots.com/podcast. Welcome back to HVAC Shop Talk. I am Zack alongside Ralph Wolf. And today we're going to talk about something extra special in our lead-in before our part 2 with John Pastorello. We're going to talk about HVAC know-it-all. No, I'm just kidding. I don't mean Gary McCready. I mean just in general, HVAC know-it-alls. And Ralph has gotten real accustomed to seeing them at the supply house.
I have, Zach.
Since the first day you walked in there, you go in there with a certain idea of what you think it's going to be like, but then you see all the other companies filter through. So what impressions are you getting?
There's better guys that come in and out than what I thought there would be. But then there's some guys that think they do know it all already. We're offering training classes and nobody wants to take advantage of them.
Now, what's the reasoning behind that? I mean, these guys, obviously they don't know it all because you have this opinion of them. So why don't they want to take a class?
Well, some of them think they know it all. And I'm like, you don't know it all. Let's say you know a brand pretty well. Well, every year they try to improve their selection of what they carry. Manufacturers improve their selection and you don't know anything about that. And it can improve your job and you refuse to come to training. It's not really a know-it-all.
No, you're right. And here's my question for you then. How many times did you go to class before you joined Ed Supply?
I really tried to go to class as much as I could. I mean, sometimes I couldn't because of work. Let's take the EWC class. Remember when we interviewed Trey and I said, I've gone to just about every class I could go to since early 2000.
That's right. I forgot about that. Old Trey Miller. For those of you who don't know, who might have joined us later on and not seen or heard that podcast, Trey Miller is from EWC. He came and sat in with us and talked about the SPD.
Yeah. I mean, every time that class was offered, I would go to it. We got another class coming up in January, and I'll go to that one too.
And when you had your April Air class at the supply house, you told me that nobody came.
Nobody showed up.
Not one person.
Not one person.
You were the only guy there.
I was the only guy, which was good because I could ask the question I wanted to ask without having to disrupt the class. He's coming back tomorrow, and we're going to have another class tomorrow. He came by this morning. And I said, look, I don't know if anybody's really signed up. I think we've just been telling guys, just come on. And then I called him later this afternoon because I needed a part number. And he asked, and I said, well, Chris, I'll be honest. I don't know how many people are going to show up. I said, it looks like we may have a counter day tomorrow.
Man, that's a real shame when stuff like that happens because these guys, they come out to train these people. They have all this knowledge and no one takes advantage of it. What can you do as a supply house? What's going to be your role and getting people in there to see these classes? Or do you have a role in all of that?
No, I definitely have a role. Anybody in the supply house has a role in getting guys to come in for training. Anybody that works there, if they know about a training class and they don't tell people, then they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Where does the buck stop? Who's in charge of making sure people get in there?
Any one of us, actually.
Hey, That's why no one's coming. There's nobody in charge.
There's nobody in charge. I mean, we have one of the sales guys that he's actually the one that sets these classes up and stuff like that. And he sends out emails, and we post a flyer right at the front door. We even have a neon orange sign with training classes, cork board under it to where we can staple the flyers to it. So it's there.
You think guys are intimidated? They don't want to go to a class and find out they don't know it all?
I don't know. If you don't know it all, just go in there and sit and listen.
A lot of people have a lot of pride, and they don't want to go in and hear that they don't know anything. They'd rather sit at the counter and go, yeah, I've been there. Yeah, I've done that. It's easy to do that and hard to go into a class and actually learn something.
When I get off the counter, that should be in another week and a half, and start getting guys' emails and be able to go out in the field and talk to the owners, then it'll be different. I'll start really pushing this stuff.
I would think that an educated customer for Ed Supply is a better customer than some guy who pulls up in his pickup truck dragging a Goodman unit behind it by the service valve.
Well, of course it is. It's not only better for Ed Supply, it's better for the industry.
Oh, that's a very global approach to that. Yeah, the entire industry. Ralph, when you get off the counter in a year and a half, like you said, you need to go out there and tell those guys.
Hey, wait. A week and a half.
What did I say? Did I say a year and a half?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. When you get out there in a month and a half, you tell those people that they need to come to class.
A week and a half now. You said a month and a half. You'll get it straight.
I'm just kidding with you. I want to make sure you get out there and make sure you're doing the job that you were designed for instead of somebody putting you in a counter spot because they need somebody that day.
Yeah.
Poor Ralphie. He needs to go out and talk to the people, man. You have a special ability to talk to people. I've seen it time and time again. It's where you're going to excel. So I'd hate to see you stuck behind the counter typing in 10 before boot all day. Hey, Ralph, I bet you'd like to see that not happen too.
Yeah. Another week and a half, I'll be off the counter and in training. I already have it, but there's a lot of stuff to know.
So you're going to actually go to a formal sales training?
No. Go out with the other sales guys. They've been doing it years.
Tell us a little bit about the guys that are going to take you out. How long have they been in sales? Because I know you talked about, I think it's Don and Walter.
Yeah, those are the two. Don, he's been in the field since the 70s. He's been service managers at refrigeration companies. He's been a manager at Mingledorf's. We've talked about Mingledorf's.
Yeah, it's the place where the leprechauns live.
Yep. It's a supply house here in Georgia, in North Florida. It's in the top 10 supply houses in the country.
Wow. Is that just regular supply houses or supply houses that house legendary creatures?
Hey, yeah, carriers. Legendary carriers.
That's right. The green speed is legendary.
Yep. And then so he's been a supply house manager, and he's been in sales supply house. He's been with Ed's, I think, 8 or 9 years. So, and then we have Walter, who I first met when I first got into the field back in the early 90s. He was a salesman then. So they've been doing it for a long time.
Wow. So a bunch of green noobs.
Oh, yeah. So I'm learning from some pretty good guys.
Well, you're going to be well trained, man. You're going to make an excellent sales apprentice going out there selling day and night and slinging it back and forth, making the trade better.
Wait a second. Not only day and night, but guess what we're going to start bringing in? Okay.
Is this different than high air?
Yes.
Can I guess one time before you tell me?
Yeah, one time.
Okay. I'm going to guess. This is difficult. I'm going to go with Aries.
No, we already have that, actually.
Oh, I get to guess again then. Hold on.
Yeah, we carry Aries.
Okay, then. I'm going to guess. Oh, this is very difficult. Oh, just tell me. Hell.
Bosch.
You're going to get Bosch.
Yeah.
Hold the phone a second. I know we have a certain amount of time in our lead-ins. Plus, I'm up against a hard wall of going to pick up my daughter from dance class.
I didn't tell you anything about bringing Bosch in, have I?
You didn't tell me anything about Bosch besides you couldn't get it because it was next door.
No, but come to find out, they're only on the water source side. They're not on the air-to-air side.
Man, I told you that I thought that was two different things.
It is, but I thought that they had the air-to-air too, but they don't.
So I hate to even get into this now. How long a story is this? We got to wrap this thing up, and you got this bombshell.
It's not very long. I talked to Paul, who was the manager, before I started working there. I told him, hey, you really need to bring Bosch in. And then since I started working there, I was like, dude, we need to bring Bosch in because Hey, I was telling a couple guys about it, and they're already like, hell yeah. And
What is the timeline?
Well, I talked to the rep yesterday, and he said, yeah, that wouldn't be a problem at all. Paul was like, I'll bring a unit in. If it'll sell, I'll bring it in.
Out of left field right there. Well, that's kind of cool. See how Bosch goes up against the high-end ICP stuff, too.
Being where I'm at now, I can help try to control, not help try to control, that's a bad term, but try to help the industry here where I'm at.
I think that your goals are good. I think you're going to be real good at it. And having Bosch there is a good idea because it's like a low-end, I hate to say that too, it's just like saying the word control. It's a low-end version of your ICP stuff. Even though it's fully variable speed and your ICP stuff is 5-speed, I still consider ICP the pinnacle.
I think it's going to be good because the guys that are intimidated by the communications won't be as intimidated with the Bosch as they would be a fully communicating system.
You can do a good job of articulating that to some of the guys because I've noticed that even when people talk about Bosch, they still think it's communicating because it's inverter. You can settle their mind.
Oh, yeah. Plus the warranty. Bosch's warranties is 90-day parts and labor. And if you register it, you get another year.
And if you guys want to know, you can go back in our podcast and listen to where we talk with Dustin Gregor from Bosch and learn a little bit more about the Bosch inverter.
Like I said, I didn't tell you anything about that because it wasn't for sure thing, and it's still not for sure. We are trying to bring it in.
Cool piece of information from Ralph. Might be talking more about the Bosch inverter, but as for today, we're going to talk to John Pastorello from Refrigeration Technologies. We're going to talk a little bit more about leak stop, and whether or not you should use it, and talk about the other additives and whether or not you should use those. So, Ralph, how about we talk to John Pastorello?
Let's do it. Roll it.
For years, I have trusted products from Refrigeration Technologies. Viper Aerosol Coil Cleaner and Degreaser is perfect for cleaning evaporator coils, condensers, even microchannel coils. This no-rinse cleaner is food safe and won't run folks out of the building with its strong odor. When I had to clean 52 apartments every spring, I turned to Viper Aerosol Cleaner to get the job done. For more information about this cleaner and a lot of other great products, go to www.refrigetech.com. That's www.refrigetech.com. Ralph, what makes EWC's smart bypass damper so innovative?
EWC Smart Bypass Damper automatically measures, maintains, and monitors operating static pressure of any zone system.
Don't they all do that now?
Now, with EWC's curved blade design, it will maintain true static pressure in all modes of operation. It also comes with a 5-year parts warranty and is the only bypass damper that is ACA compliant.
Visit EWCcontrols.com for more information. You mentioned clogs, solidification. So let's talk about leak stop, other brands of leak stop. I have Easy Seal, Easy Dry written here because that's the most famous one I can think of. But there's a lot of things that mimic that same product.
Those are the silicone types.
So what happens in that bottle? What happens in the system with those compounds?
Okay, let me give you a brief history of leak stop material. When I started in the 70s, there was a company from Japan or Korea that packaged a leak stop. And what it was graphite that was suspended in mineral oil. And graphite is pencil lead, and it's a lubricant. You get a bottle of this stuff and you'd shake it up because the graphite would tend to settle on the bottom. And the graphite were, of course, solid particles. And the theory was that the graphite would travel with the oil and eventually hit the leak site and embed itself in the leak. Graphite comes in all these different particle sizes, so it kind of form a scab on the inside of the leak path. Most people think of a leak as just a hole, a pinhole, but really a leak is, let's say on a solder joint, actually will zig and zag before you see it as a pinhole on the outside. The science of this was very sound. Just add graphite to your system and let it travel around. Eventually, if it doesn't stop the leak completely, it'll at least slow it down to where you don't need to pump it up with charge as often as you used to. Well, the one problem with the graphite was it's electrically conductive. And so it was okay in the automotive because there's no windings to deal with and currents flying around. But the minute you put it in a hermetic or semi-hermetic, within 3 to 6 months, you'd end up with a really, really nasty burnout. And there's no way you're going to get this graphite out of the coils, out of the line sets. It was nothing but replace every component in the system. And that's the only way you could have cured it. And that was back in the 70s. That was the graphite type. It was on the market maybe 6 months before they pulled it. All the supply houses started pulling it. Then in the 80s came the silicone-based leak stops. It was done by a company in Florida, and they're still in business. I think they're in Florida. They're called Chem. They came out with a silicone compound that you supposedly put it in your system, and if your system was dry, make sure your system is dry, and then you put the silicone product in, and it was supposed to travel around in the system, and of course, come out through the leak, and the air moisture at the leak would cause it to harden. Well, I tested it back in the 80s. I didn't find any hardening effect. I squirted it out into a beaker. I didn't see any reaction with moisture whatsoever. After a couple of days, the solvent eventually evaporates off and you're left with a little gummy solid there. I'll commission any one of you guys to take one of those silicone-based sealants, do a video. Basically what these leak stops do, they're silicone compounds and you inject them into the system, and silicone's not compatible with the oil. It's not compatible with refrigerant. And what you get is solids. So you get solid material floating in your oil. Your dryer is going to pick up anything larger than 20 microns. That's why they tell you, well, it only seals the small leaks. That's because the dryer is going to filter out all the larger particles. It's going to travel with the oil, and if you're lucky, it's going to get trapped in a leak path and either slow down or stop the leak. I've tried them out in the field since the 80s. I've never seen them actually stop a leak or slow down a leak. None of the products have ever passed the sealed tube test. And that's why you're probably getting all that corrosion. Plus, you got air and everything. But if you were to take that product today and just squirt it into a glass and see what happens, you'll see that nothing actually happens. Nothing hardens because of exposure to air or moisture. You can even put a drop of water in there. Nothing's going to happen. In a couple of days, the solvent will dry out, and you'll see the silicone residue that's left over.
Now, Ralph, a while back, had a guy that came up to him selling him some sort of leak sealant. And what it was polymer balls. Now, help me out here, Ralph. What can you tell us about that?
You know, I did use it in a system. And I was going to go back to next year, which was this year, and check that system out. Unfortunately, the condenser fan motor died. And I went ahead and changed the whole system. But they never complained about it not cooling until the fan died. Now, it was 24 years old, so I didn't have a problem with doing some field testing on it.
Polymer balls, huh?
Polymer balls.
Well, that's one interesting thing to look at. If I can get a sample of it, I'll have it analyzed.
Another company sent me some more stop leak from Arizona, I believe. And I'm looking at the box. This has been a few years ago. I'm looking at box. And the bottom of the box is all oily. So apparently over time it's leaked out of its container. Send that to you, John. I'd be happy to get rid of it.
Would you like an oily box?
Oily FedEx box.
I've analyzed so many of this stuff. I could basically take a look at it and say, oh no, I think I've run across this before, and I pretty much know what the results are going to come back from the lab telling me. Be happy to do it.
I don't know if I'd put you through that hardship, though.
If I see something I like, I might just copy it. Who knows? I'm not opposed to new technology. I'm just opposed to junk chemistry.
Or junk marketing?
Yes.
Does refrigeration technology sell any leak sealant at all?
Oh, no. In fact, I had a guy at a trade show come up and said, yeah, I use all your stuff. And he says, why don't you guys come out with a leak sealant? I said, no. I said, I've tested all that stuff. It's not some road we're willing to go down. He said, if you guys came out with a leak stop, I'd use yours instead of the one I'm using. And I asked him which one he's using, and he told me, he says, it works great for a little while, and then the leaks open up again. And I said, well, are you sure it even worked in the first place? He says, oh yeah, we think it worked in the first place. And they don't hold for very long.
They do actually have a lifespan once they're inside the system. The most popular one out there comes in a metal can, and it does have a lifespan. It's not like you put it in there and it lasts forever. After so long, it doesn't work anymore.
Chemicals do break down. Chemicals do become unstable, especially with heat and compression. That'll tear molecules apart.
I was talking to one of my buddies one time, and he said that he put some of that stuff in the metal can in one of the systems. Man, what'd you do that for? That stuff doesn't work. He said, oh, no. It stopped that leak. Another one started, though. And I said, well, then it really didn't work, did it? He said, no, it didn't work. Once they get so big, there's nothing we can do about them. You're wasting the customer's money and your time by adding any stop leak to the system. I do have a couple of them that I have used the oil-based formula on.
Okay.
It's safe enough that I actually took a little sip of some of it on a video.
Yeah.
They told me it was safe enough. He didn't suggest I drink it. I asked him if I could. He said, well, I don't know if it'd do anything to you, but I wouldn't suggest you do it. And I did it on the video. The way that stuff works, it doesn't harden or anything like that. I did a video where I compared a couple different types. That one, it will never change states or dry up or whatever. How it works is when it hits air, it doesn't harden or anything like that. The molecules like intertwine with each other. It's almost like a scab, but it doesn't do it because of air, if that makes sense.
Well, I haven't seen anything out there that works, and I've tested them all. As far as tasting it, why not? Mineral oil, people used to take a teaspoon of mineral oil a day to keep themselves regular. It's not absorbed into the body. It just runs through your bowels, helps loosen up the stools. Mineral oils used in hand creams, lotions, POE oils used in lipstick. It doesn't have that oily feel, and plus it absorbs moisture from the air and keeps your lips moist. Used in a lot of cosmetics, POE, PAG. These are all FDA cosmetic approved ingredients.
Not ingestion approved. Well, mineral oil maybe. But that's all this stuff is. It's a mineral-based sealant. In
the chemical trade, we call this whiz bang. I guess the guys that produce them, we call them whiz bangers. Who knows? In the chemical industry, we look at whiz bang the same way that a mechanic would look at a hack. That would be the equivalent.
We see hacks all the time.
Yeah. So do we in the chemical industry. Just go to any auto parts store.
Well, it's just marketing. I like to call it low-hanging fruit. If you produce a product and you promise it'll work, guys will buy it.
Exactly. And they will want it to work, especially cars. Cars are precious. You know, you wax your car, you make sure you put the best motor oil in there, the highest price oil filter and air filters. And of course, you want to pop the engine with the best additive, the most expensive additive you can find to help that engine run cleaner, run smoother, get more gas mileage. Those are all very tempting marketing angles.
We could use some marketing like that. I like that. I can see it right now. Check it out. AC Renew, the reverse mortgage of additives. I'm going to ask you the question, the same question I asked you earlier in this podcast. Can you think of one additive that you would ever want to use?
None.
It's pretty definitive, isn't it? Nothing
at
all.
Well, I look at it as what would I ever put into my own air conditioner?
Yeah.
None. I'll give you the benefit of all my chemistry knowledge, and I've studied system chemistry for as long as I've been involved in this industry, to save you the expense of going to university and getting a degree, specializing in refrigeration system chemistry. It all boils down to the only chemistry you need to know is never put anything in the system other than the correct refrigerant and the correct oil. That's all the chemistry you need to know. Because if it was a good additive, a beneficial additive, it's already in the oil. It's already gone through all the testing. Copeland has christened it and given it the ultimate blessing, or other compressor manufacturers would have.
Well, even the valve manufacturers like Sporlan, they say they don't want any additives in the system.
Of course not, because they want to make sure that they're stable. They don't want warranty return coming back with clogged up TXV valves.
Now, just as a refresher to everybody that listened to you on the first podcast, when did you start chemistry?
Graduated from high school in 1968 and went to college thereafter. I've got three and a half solid years of college chemistry. Never got a degree.
Yeah, you were like one class short, right?
I was 2 classes short.
Oh, two.
Toward the end, I was a contractor and I was trying to finish college doing night school, but that didn't work out because a lot of my better calls were at night when I was making overtime. Never made it to a lot of the night courses. Always ended up enrolling in college to get those last 2 classes and then ended up dropping out because I couldn't complete. Because face it, I was making more money doing refrigeration and air conditioning than I ever would have done with a chemical degree. That's just a fact of life. People with degrees just come out with college maybe with a job eventually. It's nowhere near the pay that you would get in a highly skilled trade like HVAC, that's for sure. Even a plumber, even a painter, a roofer, they make more money.
The ones at the top of the chain. Now, the guys picking up the nails that they dropped off the house and making that, but the ones that have gotten their experience, and they definitely do.
Yeah, and the bonus comes when you decide to start your own business.
I don't know, John. Sometimes I talk to a lot of guys. Yeah, I was making really good money. I was getting wore out because of it.
Well, you make good money if it stays hot. Here in California, you get 2-3 good months of hot weather, and then it kind of tails off, and then it may flare up one more time like it did this year. Unlike back east, you have the winter to look forward to where you get all the heating repairs. In California, you don't get the heating repairs. You maybe get 2 weeks worth of that. That is probably my weakest area as a service technician, was heaters and repairing heaters, because I didn't have that many to repair. I mean, I could go up to a unit and light a pilot and say, there it is, here's your service call.
You'd be lost today, John.
It's all circuit boards.
What's easy? It's just say it's the board, right? That's what you do.
Yeah.
The board.
The light told me so.
Yeah. 4 blinks. That's what I do. That's not too bad. And if you lack heating knowledge, just listen to our previous podcast. We had 2 boiler podcasts, 2 heat exchanger podcasts.
Okay, I'll have to brush up on that then.
And we're going to ask that you stop right now and watch those and come back now, John.
Yeah. Just listen.
You'll have a 10-question quiz on various gas appliances.
Yeah, the best knowledge is just to go in there, jump in there with work to solve a problem until you figure it out. That's where it was with me with heating. Change this, change that. Oops, okay, that didn't work, then this should work. And finally, gas valve is usually the last thing I'd replace. And then bingo, finally get the problem fixed.
Hey, John, a little word of advice. If you ever do work on another furnace, don't leave the pressure test port out after you're done.
Okay.
What
is the pressure test for?
Thank God we were able to talk to him.
Yeah. Thank God we were able to talk to you.
I mean, I could do limit switches and fan delays and that kind of stuff.
It's checking gas pressure on that.
They still have those?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we still have to check them. Man. If you don't put the plug back in, the furnace will catch on fire. I promise you that. Not from my experience, though.
We have photographic proof that if you leave the test port out of a furnace, and of course it comes back to cycling time, and you have that big pool of gas right there, it will cause a very bad issue at your home.
The fire department will be called.
Yes. They frown upon it back at the office. That wasn't our doing, though. That was a different company. Unfortunately, we interviewed that guy who works there. He didn't leave the test port out. I'll say that right now. He just had to go to the call afterwards.
So is that like a 1/4-inch little plug?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Where you put your manometer on to check the gas pressure.
I don't think I had a manometer.
How in the world did we get on this subject anyway? We're trying to focus on the one area he's weak at. Is that what we're doing in this podcast?
I thought we were trying to focus on the areas that he was great at.
We got onto gas furnaces, but I have a question for you. It's getting close to time where I put Ralph to task, but we'll get that in just a second. I have a question for you. If guys use this leak stop or use these additives and someone comes along and wants to change the system out, are there any lingering effects that's going to cause issues further down the road for the new system and a new company?
Well, first of all, you're not going to get it out of the system unless you change every component. I think that's the biggest downside. Their stability is unknown, except I know their stability. I've had sealed tube tests done, and I haven't seen one pass yet. And stability leads to system failure.
One of the reasons I asked you that question is because a lot of the arguments that we get, or just guys that are saying they're going to use something like that, are using it because they say, well, the unit's so old, we don't want to do anything else to it. We're just going to use this as a last-ditch effort.
Yeah.
I want to clarify whether or not that last-ditch effort is going to affect the next system that goes in.
Not unless everything has changed. I would change that saying. I would say never put additives in a system you can't afford to buy, because we just had a local contractor here put some leak stop in a 25-ton AC unit. 2 months later, it locked up the compressor. I believe it was a Lennox unit. The owner of the unit called Lennox, one of the authorized service dealers, out and showed him the prior invoice. The Lennox dealer says, well, he put leak stop in here. That's not a factory authorized repair. And so now that contractor is getting sued for the replacement of the unit.
Ooh, that's going to hurt.
Yes, it is.
Oh, man. That is not an inexpensive.
Last ditch effort, or never put it in a system you can't afford to buy.
Man, that would be enough to make some people go out of business right there.
I understand it may have been a wing of a hospital. This is why they got very upset. Big places, they have legal departments. Legal departments like to sue people. Never do work for a lawyer.
Or anybody with a big legal department.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So I always ask people, do you guys have a legal department? No. All right, let's get started.
I can't afford a lawyer, Zach.
Hey, for a further clarification, when you're changing out a system that's had this stuff in here, one of the components you have to be worried about is also the line set, correct?
Exactly.
So I get you to think right there. I mean, a lot of line sets stay where they're at. So even if you have a new system, you have existing tubing that's already in the wall.
Those additives are going to stay with the oil, and there's always going to be some type of oil residue. I'm not a fan of flushing agents either. So
let's stop right there before we go on. I'm going to ask you why not.
The solvents stay integrated in the oil. A lot of the solvent doesn't evacuate off. And so when you put your system back into service, you have solvent residue that is going to cause some type of corrosion somewhere down the line.
Ream had come out with a service bulletin telling guys not to flush.
Exactly.
I don't know if any other manufacturer has done it or not. I do know Ream. I saw the bulletin on it.
Copeland's been telling you not to flush for as long as I could remember.
I don't see how a company as big as Copeland can't stop all these different products from being sold.
They can't, because there is a law, I believe it's called Magnesium Moss. Magnesium-Moss. And what that does, it protects aftermarket additives from lawsuits. You can look at it on the internet, and it's been around since STP, Bardol, Wins, all those old-fashioned oil additives that people used to use in their engines. It's so you can't sue those automotive aftermarket manufacturers. Even GM, Chrysler, Ford, they can't go after them.
It seems like if you have proof that a product would do damage to a system when it was installed, a percentage even, because there's guys that say, oh, I've used this stuff all the time and I've never had an issue. The percentage has got to be high of the damage being done after this stuff is put in the system. It seems like there should be some kind of addendum to that law that says if this product causes certain percentage of failure, then you're out of here, buddy.
Yeah, well, you don't see Slick 50 around anymore.
No, actually don't.
No, you don't see, I think it was Duralube.
But they were almost products just like AC Renew. They were identical.
Well, as far as their marketing.
Yeah. What they said they do.
Well, I remember you put the Duralube in your engine and then you drain your oil and you can still drive your car forever.
Exactly.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. You know what? I'm guilty. I bought some of it.
Oh my gosh. Of course you did. The guy who drinks Leak Stop, of course you bought it.
I did. But it's the same concept as AC Renew. They don't say drain your oil, but from what I remember, it was the same thing. It'll increase the performance or whatever.
All this stuff has been around before us and will continue to resurface under different names, under different companies. It's a never-ending cycle. It's taking advantage of the consumer's lack of knowledge of, number one, chemistry or science in general. There's always a new magnet for your water line to prevent scale. They always have some new technology going on. The magnets don't work, but this sine wave that we introduce into your piping system will stop scale from forming.
Unfortunately, it's those type of products where you can't see the benefit of it.
Correct.
I love UV lights. I love what they do. But it's one of those products that you can't see the benefit of.
UV light is based on very sound science. I mean,
right, exactly. But unfortunately, you never know if it's going to work or not.
Exactly.
You don't really know if it's working because you had never seen a prior issue.
I installed one of the first generation Honeywell electronic air cleaners in my own house. And 3 years later, I was cleaning my evaporator coil.
Well, I was getting ready to say, electronic air cleaners, I never got the concept because this is what I told people. Take a handful of dirt and plug that thing in and then throw that dirt at that filter. If any goes through there, then it's something you don't want.
Exactly. Yeah, we put up many years of snapping and crackling, and I installed it in so many houses. They say they have children with allergies, and most of them ask for electronic cleaners. I put them in, not knowing. You go back to those customers. Oh yeah. The asthma, the allergies, that's kind of all been
eliminated. You know what it was doing? It wasn't because the air was being filtered. It was the ions that the electronic air cleaner was producing. That's what was helping them out.
No, I thought it was just mainly because it just didn't capture everything. Because that air is moving fast, and so is the particles.
That's why I never understood the electronic air cleaners.
I installed a bunch of them. Everyone seemed pretty happy, though.
We had to do our end of the show ritual now.
Okay.
Oh my God! Don't do that to me.
Yay! It's time. That's my favorite part. It's like Christmas comes, but once a week.
What are we selling now?
All we're doing is peddling knowledge here, and it's Ralph Wolf's knowledge. My cohort over here finishes every single show by giving us a tidbit of knowledge, or sometimes reading from a nice Robert Frost poem.
I know that's not going to happen.
It's really nice stuff. You should try it. So, okay, Ralph.
I got the Amp Pro literature right here.
To our guys, it's probably the same thing. So go ahead and give us some knowledge / whatever you got for us today.
If you're faced with a unit breaking down, or it has broken down, you say, well, I'm going to put some stop leak in this thing. Don't do it, because John said so. Isn't that right, John?
I would never use it in my own air conditioner. And certainly, maybe if it was a customer I didn't like. Yeah. I might get a compressor replacement out of it somewhere down the line.
All right. Well, with that, John.
Or maybe sell them a new unit. That's even better.
There you go. With that, John, we want you to come back because we enjoy our conversations. He is the Jim Bergman of the chemical end of it.
I take that as a very high compliment. I have all the respect in the world for Jim.
When are you coming back, John?
Anytime you want.
With that, I bid you farewell and adieu.
Thank you, guys.
The Amp Probe IRC-110 thermal imaging camera is perfect for HVAC technicians. It fits right in the palm of your hand. It won't break the bank, It's got all the capabilities you need to troubleshoot electrical and refrigerant circuits. To learn more about this tool, visit antprobe.com. There's a lot of tools out there used for flaring, but Yellow Jacket has come out with a new flaring tool that goes above and beyond the competition. It's either an electric or a manual flare. You can use your drill to flare it out or just flare it by hand. Each one of the flare holes has been tested 1,000 times, and the eccentric cone produces the best flares in the business. So before you pick up your next flaring tool, try out Yellow Jacket. You might like the versatility and the quality that comes with the Yellow Jacket name. Find out more about the electric, manual, lightweight flaring tool at yellowjacket.com. Guys, you may have noticed that on the podcast there's a few new sponsors. I want to welcome them. Yellow Jacket has come on board. Of course, they're a great company. If you don't know who Yellow Jacket is, you're probably under a rock somewhere. We've all used their analog gauges. A lot of guys used a man tooth. There's a new electric flare that we're going to be testing out here. A lot of great stuff coming up. Tried and true. It's been around for a long time. I think it was 68 years. We have refrigeration technologies that just came on board yesterday. Awesome. Nylog, the Viper coil cleaner, the best in the business. Awesome stuff. We're glad to have them. If you don't know who Refrigeration Technologies is, look them up online, refrigetech.com. They have a ton of great products. AntProbe will be here all month and for a few months advertising their brand new thermal camera. We have a few of them in stock. In fact, we have, I believe, 11 more to give away. So during our giveaways, we'll be having a lot of AntProbe fun. We still have a few more ACD14 Pros to give away. So we're going to have a lot of fun. So there's some brand new guys to go along with our existing guys who have been so great. Sporlan, EWC, and Jackson Systems have been tried and true these last several months. We want to thank them too. It's been a great ride. We're going to go into the winter now. For the first time in my life, I'm not bitterly afraid because of the slowdown working in the wintertime. It's a good feeling, I have to tell you. Swag Wednesday is coming up this week. We're going to do that every single week. Last week we gave away a Sporlan cooler, a couple koozies, a Sporlan hat. Sporlan was fantastic. There's a lot more swag they sent to give away, so we'll have that. We're going to have some stuff from Jackson Systems. I think that's going to be our next swag giveaway. And then hopefully we get some stuff from Refrigeration Technologies in a couple weeks. We'll do them too. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a one-day giveaway, so you got to rush in there and get your name on the list by commenting on the YouTube video, which is going to be on the HVAC Shop Talk YouTube channel. Each Wednesday morning I'm going to go live. You're going to get the requirements for winning the contest, which is typically just writing a single word in the comment section. And that evening, either myself or Ralph and I will pick a winner. If you haven't already, check out the HVAC Shop Talk Facebook page and also the Facebook group. Very good information there. A lot of guys helping other guys out. A good place to be. Guys, I want to thank you again for tuning into this episode. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. We'll be doing interviews this weekend. Hopefully have some very interesting stuff for you. Maybe even release a prize podcast finally. We've been putting it off, looking for the perfect prize, but I think I've got a good prize in mind. So this weekend, look out for a prize podcast, and we will see you on the next one.